Hi, I'm Kris from Winsights. Today, I'm going to talk about account-based engagement and specifically about B2B Buyers Journey. We at Winsights work with B2B vendors, their CROs and CMOs, helping them with the data, intent data, data analytics in a platform-based done-for-you model to create qualified opportunities with their most ideal buyers. Now, in this session, my goal is to cover the evolving B2B buyer's journey and what you as a seller can do about it to be able to align and win new opportunities from your customers. Now, what is that you can expect at the end of this session? I'm going to touch upon the evolving B2B buyer's journey. I'm going to talk about what's the opportunity for sellers. How are sellers positioning themselves, whether reactive sellers or proactive sellers? What impact does it have on your KPIs metrics, depending on whether you're a reactive seller or a proactive seller to this evolving B2B buyer journey? And ultimately, what's the summary of this session? And what are those key takeaways you can hopefully take them and implement them in your own unique business context? Now, just as a personal experience, I have been selling into different cultures in different countries. Of course, starting in India, Middle East, US, UK, and now Australia, New Zealand, right? Now, very interesting to see how the cultural aspects really influence your buyers and their mindsets, not to really talk about their roles and the size of the business that they operate and other variable factors, right? Now, pre-COVID, during COVID, and hopefully the post-COVID, we are seeing that the buyers are much more empowered, much more informed in the way they're going about making their purchase decisions. Typically, as you can see, they start the problem identification and then they start finding the suitable solution by doing initial research through Google, through thought leaders such as Gartner, Forrester, or look at some leading learning sources like LinkedIn as an example. They may look at your competitor websites. They may even come and look at your websites to learn more about your solution that can hopefully solve their problem. And if it does at a fundamental level, they might even fill a form and then leave you with their contacts for you to contact them back, right? So that means it's an opportunity for you. And what you do with that opportunity is entirely up to you. Now, what does this evolving B2B buyer journey really mean? Does it mean that they figured everything out? Far from the truth. According to Gartner, 77% of B2B buyers found their recent purchase to be either complex or difficult or probably both. And the question is, if the buyers are empowered and informed, why is that they are finding it complex or difficult to make purchase decisions? Some of the reasons are essentially because if it happens to be, let's say, a complex purchase, or if it happens to be a high value purchase with, let's say, $1 million or more worth of purchase, they go by consensus. So typically 6 to 20 buyers across different roles and seniority levels are involved in that purchase decision. So it's a number of buyers involved. And the second aspect to that is each buyer doing their own homework and identifying different data points, what they believe are important for a vendor solution to really solve. So each buyer comes with their own data points to the table. And because in almost all the cases, the buyer has plenty of options in terms of competing vendors and competing solutions. So not an easy task by no means for any buyer to be able to choose from so many vendors and solutions. Now, it is not to say that buyers are not easing their experience. Of course they are. And they put together this 6-point, let's say, agenda for them to ease their buying experience. As an example, they are, of course, identifying a problem, that yes, there is a problem. And then after talking to different vendors and different solutions, they are further breaking their problems into requirements or building blocks to solving their problem, as an example. Then they're looking at, okay, what kind of solutions are better going to solve their specific problem? Now they have of course, a criteria, and they go with that criteria. They assign a particular score to that specific criteria, and then they do a weighted average to, let's say, choose maybe 2 vendors and 2 specific solutions. And it is not to say that they're going to choose the vendor just like that. Maybe they want to validate. How? Perhaps they may ask you to do a POC in their own environment to see how this actual solution plays out in the unique environment. And ultimately, they may choose a particular vendor that matches closest to what they are looking for. Again, it's a consensus-based decision making. So as you can see, even for them, it's not easy. Now we switch gears and come to seller. Okay. If you look at this buyer's journey, where are you as a seller? Yeah. So typically, if you are taking a reactive approach to this B2B buyer's journey, according to Cirrus Decisions, it says without understanding your buyer's journey or having access to intent data, you're only able to convert 4.4% of your top of the funnel opportunities. Very, very disappointing number. And even more disappointing is only 0.3% of those opportunities are actually converting into real dollar sale. Extremely disappointing. I do not think sellers need to be selling so badly. Yeah. So some of the things is, why is that they are being reactive? Why is that their conversion and closure is disappointingly low, right? One being the access to intent data, whether that intent data is gathered through your own first party data, or it can be gathered to a third party data, right? The first party data is your direct interaction with your buyers. Third party data, you may get this from other sources, third party sources, where they tell you what webinars they attended, what white papers they downloaded, what interviews they may have given to different players, all the activity that they have done in the digital world that is gathered by third party. So you have access to that intent data as well, should you choose to have that. So having got the intent data, you discover that, okay, buyers should come to me and the buyer should ask me questions and learn about my solution and give me business. I don't think that really happens. The other thing is, okay, buyers should leave a trail behind, fill a form, and then we go back to buyers and start engaging them. Far from the truth. And ultimately, even if they do, and even if they find your solution suitable, they're not going to give you their business. Why? Because you're quite late in the game. Imagine, even if you're good, you may not get the business. Why? Because you're being reactive. Now, how as a seller can be proactive? Proactive meaning you can align and influence your buyers by starting your journey right at the beginning of the buyer's journey. So you start when they're doing the initial research on exploring solution options to their problem. You embed yourself right here. How can you do that? We spoke about intent data, and then you also spoke about their buyer's activity online. Let's say looking at third-party review websites like G2, Good Company, Capterra. You could also gather lots of intelligence around your customers, the company, the strategic priorities, different stakeholders who may be involved in your typical sales cycle, and then the social media influencers, what they're talking about, your given solution, and whether or not your buyers engaged in, let's say, LinkedIn as an example, right? And tracking their behavior on your own website and on your social media channel. And also you run targeted ads for your buyers wherever they may be visiting online. You continue to target, retarget them for better mindshare and better engagement. Okay, now what does it all mean to you as a seller, right? If you're able to proactively position yourself right at the beginning of the buyer's journey, initial research, you are impacting your KPIs and metrics that matter the most to you as a CMO or as a CRO, or for that matter, as a revenue team. Okay, what does it mean? You will have more qualified opportunities. If you have more qualified opportunities, that means the quantity may be lower, but the quality is higher. And why should you care? If the quality of your opportunities is better, then you are highly likely to close a significantly better percentage of that as an ultimate business. That's the impact this alignment to your B2B buyer journey can potentially create for you. And next is, because you are aligned to your buyers right at the beginning of their journey, you're able to convert those opportunities into booked meetings. Buyers are highly likely to show up to those booked meetings. So higher conversion of opportunities and opportunity to ask questions and get specific answers to your questions from your buyers. Okay? Because you have engaged with your buyers right at the initial research stage, you have had opportunity to interact with them at multiple points. You have asked some smart questions. You got specific information, which means all of this must definitely result in shorter sales cycle. Without this, assume you may have 3 months or a 12-week sales cycle. It potentially can bring it down to 8 to 10 weeks. And the next metric that impacts is better deal size. Why? When you convince them through your credible approach, you're solving the core problem, of course, but you're also able to exaggerate the problem to the surrounding areas of that problem and convincing them that your solution can not only solve the core, but also the periphery around that problem. You may want to do that on a progressive or on a version based rollout. So, which means you're actually gaining more wallet share, more deal size from your customers. And finally, it actually means your lifetime value of the customers can be significantly higher. If a customer is worth $1 million to you over 3 years, as an example, this approach can potentially give you $1.2 million as an example. Why? Because you're deeply embedded in solving their core problem, plus the periphery around the problem. You understand their business better. You understand their stakeholders better. You would have established yourself in terms of your relationships and your thought leadership. That must definitely lead to a higher CLV. Okay. So, what's the summary here? The summary is simple. You align to win with your ideal buyers. It is as simple as that. So, what does it mean? Just to summarize, find buyers early in the path to purchase, leverage the power of intent data. You align and influence your buyers with your narrative in a mutually value exchange interactions and conversations. Remember, you as a seller equal to a buyer. They need you as much as you need them. So it's an opportunity to engage and build relationship with your buyers as equals. And more importantly, use the power of content. Content-centric approach lends you very, very well in establishing your thought leadership and building relationships with your customers. It could be your success stories from your existing customers. It could be white papers. It could be your mentions in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. It could be the webinars that you have hosted around that topic. Any and every content that you have created that can potentially resonate with your buyers, you must be leveraging in the entire B2B buyers journey. And you cannot do it alone. You may have to take an hybrid approach where you have in-house team to do that by subscribing to a set of tools. And you can also have a third-party vendor or a partner who can actually helping you build a separate pipeline of qualified opportunities. You could take that hybrid approach and see which one is giving you better bang for the bucks, if that makes sense, right? And ultimately, you have to look at the roles and the rules specific to the individual buyer and what drives them, motivates them. Hopefully, align to them and connect to them, not only professionally, but also personally. Why? Because people buy from people that they like, that they know, that they trust. So do not underestimate the power of personal connection with your buyers, because they are also people like you. And ultimately, facts first, because everything that you do needs to be data driven, apply specific analytics to look at the insights and say, okay, what's working for you, what's not working for you, continuously measure, continuously improve to really, really elevate your game of gaining more traction, more mind share, and ultimately higher wallet share from your ideal customers and buyers. With that, I conclude. I am contactable very, very easily. You can ask me questions. You can share the feedback about this presentation, or in general, you can easily reach out to me on LinkedIn, via email, via my mobile number if you wish. I look forward to having that interaction with you. Thank you and have a fantastic day.